Welcome to another segment of ACRPtv. Today, we're part of our ongoing series where we're talking to different professionals in the clinical trial workforce, trying to get a better handle on some of the job titles out there. And as you know, anyone in the clinical trial industry is well aware that sometimes the job titles don't always transfer well from company to company necessarily. So we're trying to burrow down a little bit and talk to people who are actually doing the work to get a better sense of what they do on a day-to-day basis. It's the day in the life of a CTC. We've got a good one with us today, McKenzie Black from Merck. McKenzie, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be doing this.
Fantastic. Well, if you could now talk to our folks here about your role as a CTC, and as much as you can, kind of a typical day maybe.
Sure. So as you said, I'm a CTC here at Merck. That stands for Clinical Trial Coordinator. And a typical day will vary a lot based on what type of study you're in and what phase of the study you are. So, as you know, we do everything from study startup all the way to closeout. So anything in pre-validation and validation, you're pretty busy with talking to the sites, getting them set up, getting appropriate documents like CDAs, and then after validation, which is the site has been selected, you still have documents, you're still talking to the sites, but then this changes into more study-specific information like a 1572, you get the PI and the sub-ICVs, and you're integrating them into different systems that ultimately allow you to help them run the trial from their site. As a CTC, you get to work a lot with people at the sites, including the PIs, the sub-Is, regulatory contacts. But then you also have your team. So for me, it's at Merck, but whatever sponsor you work at, there'll be a team. We have clinical research managers who kind of run the study on a country level. We have CRAs who are the main liaison with the site. And then we have COMs, which are country operations managers that work with the budget, with the contract and all those different things. So as a whole, you have a really amazing team that you're working with, and they're always supporting you regardless of the phase of the study. And it's really interesting to get to know that when I come into work, it's going to be different depending on the study, depending on the day. I'm never bored. And then the other things I do as a CTC are certain things like working as a Merck team member. You can become an SME, which is a subject matter expert. And so you get to take some time to work on non-study activities like helping train your fellow CTCs, working as a mentor in some capacity, and even, getting to work with management to make certain decisions. Like recently I was working with, okay, does this tool that we're using still work as well as we think it does? Because there's other things on the market that might work better. And so, it's a lot of exciting things you get to do.
Okay, so McKenzie, how did you get into clinical research? There's so many different pathways for people to find out about this industry.
There definitely is. And I would say that maybe mine is a little unconventional, but like you said, there's so many different ways to get in. So who's to say? In undergrad, I actually started studying public health policy. Really wanted to work in a field where I felt like I was improving health in America on a high level kind of scale. And ultimately ended up deciding that it wasn't for me. I still have that same passion for public health, but I think, you have to have a certain disposition to work in policy and nonprofit, and I just did not. So I ended up going back to the drawing board, looking at what I felt like my skills and my passions were and seeing where they aligned. And something that I was always pretty good at was statistics and statistical analysis. So I ended up going to grad school, getting my MPH in biostatistics, which I absolutely loved and absolutely recommend. And from there, it seemed like a lot of different stars aligned. I got my internship at Merck, which again, would strongly recommend. The internship program here is amazing. You get to have hands-on experience in your field, but then every single intern here also gets matched with a mentor where you get to learn about professional development, networking in this industry in particular, and it definitely sets you up for a great career, not just at Merck, but anywhere in the industry. And so it all kind of came together quite nicely, and I get to kind of maintain my passion for public health. I get to use my skills as a biostatistician, and I get to learn more every day about clinical research, which is very exciting.
Now, a minute ago, you used the word passionate, and I wonder if you could talk, you've touched on it a little bit, but maybe talk a little bit more about what about the CTC role you're so passionate about in your day-to-day work?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's definitely a passion for knowing that the drugs we are working on are ultimately helping people. I think when people ask me, like, oh, why public health? Why biostatistics? Like, there's a lot of different ways you could go. Why CTC? I like to keep in mind that each of those numbers I see on the screen is a person, and hopefully a person that we're helping, which is such an amazing feeling. I think, almost everyone at some point in their life is like, oh, I'm going to be a doctor. And then, you find out that maybe I'm not suited for working in a hospital. And so I still get to do that here at Merck, which is amazing. You get to talk to PIs, and hearing about their stories is really cool, especially when you're getting to know the sites. And, you might not even be talking about the study that you're working on, and you just like learning about the work they do, which is really cool. And then additionally, I get to kind of learn every single day. When I was younger, I was always worried about, the proverbial office job. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine going in just staring at a computer every day. And when I transitioned, I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just get used to it. It's fine. And I come in and I'm constantly learning, not just about opportunities at Merck, but different types of roles in the field, different types of roles in the industry. Clinical research, you do not necessarily have to be at a sponsor. You could be at a CRO, you could be at a site. You could be a CTC working in operations, or you could be a study manager working in strategy, and everything in between. So I feel like I'm constantly getting to learn, and as someone who has been a student for most of her life, that's an amazing feeling.
Now, a second ago, also, you talked about mentoring and certain pathways of study. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who's a high school, college student or something, or someone considering clinical research as a field? Maybe they don't know too much about it. So what would you say to somebody thinking about jumping into this field?
Well, first I would say watch the ACRPtv series about all the
There you go.
different
There
fields
you go.
that you can get into. I would say, like I said, the Merck internship absolutely. I hope I don't sound too dramatic, but it changed my life entirely. Like, it opened my eyes to a type of work that I hadn't really been considering previously. And I think hands-on experiences are really when you get a chance to apply the theory that you're learning in the classroom and see if it's something that suits you. In your degrees, there's a lot of different ways that you could go. Like I said, biostatistics, I wasn't necessarily like, oh, all I can do is pharma, but I was able to kind of sit back and find this path. And again, very grateful for it. But I think in general, take the internship. Even if you're not entirely sure, that's what internships are for. They're not permanent. It's temporary. Network, be aware of your connections, and just say yes. Say yes to the opportunities, because especially when you're a student, worst case scenario is next semester you try something new. And just know that even if maybe you interned in clinical research operations and you didn't love that, but you really were interested in the science behind the study, maybe next time when you're at the end of your internship, find someone who works in as a bench scientist and be like, hey, could I shadow you a little bit? Like, we're all so connected, we're all working together, and we're all really supporting each other. So just don't be afraid to ask for some insight, and don't be afraid to say yes to that internship.
Outstanding advice. Really, really appreciate it. This has been our ACRP TV segment, A Day in the Life of a CTC. We've been speaking with McKenzie Black, a CTC at Merck. McKenzie, thank you so much for joining us and your insights and your enthusiasm. Very inspiring.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.